Zanira always protected her little sister. When their mother passed, she became the one who held things together, cooking, working, surviving. So when Jaburo proposed to Zanira, it wasn't just a dream come true. It was the first thing she didn't have to share, until her sister whispered a lie that almost ruined everything. But what she didn't know was that the lie she told would bring her truth crashing down. Zanira had spent weeks planning her engagement party, ironing her dress, choosing flowers, imagining the moment she'd finally be called someone's fiancé. Jaburo had always been warm, thoughtful, full of soft words and steady hands. But the night before the party, something changed. He didn't hug her the same. His replies became short, dry. He wouldn't even meet her eyes. At first, Zanira thought maybe he was just stressed. Maybe the pressure of the big day was getting to him. She tried to laugh it off, cook his favorite dinner, talk about their future. But Jaburo barely touched his plate. Then, after a long, heavy silence, he picked up his phone, handed it to her, and said, "Read this." Her heart dropped before her eyes did. It was a message from Naima, her younger sister, the girl she had raised like a daughter after their mother died, the girl she protected, fed, and fought for, the girl she shared everything with. And the message, just 7 words that shattered everything. Ask her about the baby she's hiding. Zanira stared at the screen. Her mind raced. What baby? Whose baby? Why would Naima say this? Was this a joke? But Jaburo wasn't laughing. He pulled back like she was a stranger, like she'd tricked him. Zanira's voice cracked as she tried to explain, but he'd already made up his mind. The doubt was planted, and the worst part, it didn't come from an enemy. It came from the one person she trusted most. In that moment, everything blurred. The decorations, the ring, the promises. None of it mattered now. One message, one lie. That's all it took to break her heart and bury the love they had. Zanira didn't cry in front of him. She just handed the phone back, stood up slowly, and walked away. But deep inside her, something shifted. This wasn't just about a broken engagement. This was betrayal from her own blood. And something told her the truth behind this lie would be much darker than she imagined. Zanira didn't sleep that night. Her mind kept spinning, replaying the message over and over. Ask her about the baby she's hiding. Her heart was broken, but more than that, she was confused, hurt. And the worst part, that message didn't come from a stranger or someone who hated her. It came from Naima, her own little sister. The next morning, before the sun was fully up, Zanira went straight to Naima's place. She didn't yell. She didn't scream. She just looked her sister in the eyes and asked, "Why did you send that message to Jaburo?" Naima blinked, then gave a little shrug like it didn't matter. "I just said you weren't being honest," she said, brushing her hair behind her ear like they were talking about something small. Maybe he deserves to know everything. Zanira felt her chest tighten. Everything? What everything, Nima? What are you talking about? But Nima didn't answer clearly. She just smirked a little and said, "I don't know. People talk. Maybe you've got secrets. Who doesn't?" Zanira stared at her, shocked. This was her sister, the same girl she stayed up with when she had nightmares, the same girl she protected when other kids at school made fun of her hand-me-downs. How could she do this? Why? "I don't have a baby, Nima," Zanira said quietly, still trying to stay calm. "You know that. So why would you lie like that?" Nima didn't deny anything. She didn't apologize either. She just leaned against the table and said, "If it's not true, then what's the problem? Maybe he should have just asked you. Maybe he would have trusted you more." Zanira felt something inside her snap, not in anger, but in pain. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. Nima had done this on purpose. She wanted to hurt her. And for what? Attention? Jealousy? For the first time, Zanira saw her sister differently, not as the girl she'd always looked out for, but as someone who saw her happiness as a threat. Zanira didn't say another word. She just turned and left. As she walked home, her heart heavy, one thing became clear. This wasn't about a message anymore. This was about something deeper. Naima had something to gain by destroying her relationship. But what? And why now? Zanira didn't have answers yet, but one thing was certain. If Nima could lie so easily, then she could definitely be hiding something too. Something big. A week passed, but it felt like a lifetime to Zanira. She waited, hoping Jaburo would come back, hoping he'd realize the message was a lie. She thought maybe he just needed time to cool down. to remember who she really was. But instead, one evening, he showed up at her door, not with flowers or forgiveness, but with the ring she had once worn with pride. His face looked heavy, like he didn't want to do this, but he still did. He placed the ring in her palm and said, "I can't be with someone who lies about children." Zanira couldn't speak. Her voice just stopped working. She wanted to shout, to explain, to defend herself, but no words came out. All she could do was look at him, her eyes wide, heart breaking in silence. He didn't wait for a response. He just turned and walked away, leaving her standing there alone, holding a ring that now felt like a joke. She sat down on the floor, still clutching it, tears rolling down her face, not because he left, but because he believed her sister over her. He never even asked her side. One message was enough to erase all their memories, all their promises, and that hurt more than anything. But what happened next hurt in a different way. 3 weeks later, while scrolling through her phone, Zanira's breath caught in her throat. There, on social media, was a photo she didn't expect to see. Naima, smiling, dressed up, at Jaburo's office party. And worse, she was wearing Zanira's earrings, the ones Zanira had lent her long ago for a school event, the ones she had forgotten to take back. Simple earrings, but now they felt like something stolen. Zanira stared at the picture for a long time. Her sister didn't tag anyone, but the caption said it all. "Great night with great people." In the background, Jaburo stood nearby, talking to someone, unaware of the camera, but still close enough to make the message clear. Zanira's heart dropped. It wasn't just betrayal anymore, it was replacement. Naima had slid into her place like smoke, smooth, silent, and fast. While Zanira was grieving a broken engagement, Naima was already stepping into the life she left behind. Zanira didn't comment, didn't react, but something inside her changed that day. The pain was still there, but it wasn't just sadness now. It was the start of something new, a fire, not for revenge, but for truth. Because if Naima could take her place this easily, there had to be more secrets behind that smile. And Zanira was finally ready to find out. Even after the engagement was broken and the photo of Naima at Jaburo's party had come and gone, one thing wouldn't go away: the rumor. The same old whisper that had followed Zanira like a shadow for years came crawling back. Louder this time, uglier. People started talking again. At the market, at the salon, even at the local pharmacy. Women would pause their conversations when she entered. Some would give her sympathetic looks. Others whispered behind her back. Everyone seemed to have the same question. Was it true? Did Zanira really have a secret child? It wasn't a new story. A few years ago, a baby girl was left in their hometown. No name, no mother, just found crying in a woven blanket on the steps of the health center. Nobody ever came forward. The story quickly spread. And because Zanira was one of the few young women in town who kept to herself, people started guessing. And guessing turned into gossip. Gossip turned into judgment. Back then, Zanira had ignored it. She knew the truth, and the truth was, that baby wasn't hers. But she also knew whose it was, and that was the hardest part. Zanira had carried that secret like a stone in her heart. She didn't ask for it. She didn't want it. But when she found out, she stayed quiet. Not to protect herself, but to protect someone else. Someone she loved. She had told herself it wasn't her business. She hadn't seen the baby being left. She didn't have proof. She just had a few clues, a gut feeling, and the quiet tears of someone who once came home from the hospital empty-handed and never spoke about it again. So, she kept her mouth shut, even when it hurt, even when people judged her, even when it ruined things, because revealing the truth back then would have destroyed someone completely. But now that same silence was being used against her. Naima's message to Jaburo had brought the old rumor back to life, and this time, it had claws. It ripped into her peace, her reputation, and her dreams. Still, Zanira said nothing. She didn't fight back, didn't beg anyone to believe her. But inside, something was shifting. She realized that her silence, the one that once came from love, was now protecting the very person who had betrayed her. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop protecting lies. Because the truth, even when painful, was still better than being blamed for something that was never hers to carry. Zanira could have screamed. She could have gone to every neighbor, every auntie, every friend and defended herself. She could have shouted the truth to anyone who would listen, but she didn't. She stayed quiet, not because she was weak, but because she had finally realized words wouldn't fix this. Facts would. So instead of wasting her breath, she used her time. She started digging. She remembered small things first, like the night Naima came home 5 years ago, looking pale and sick. She had said it was just a bad stomach. But now, Zanira remembered the hospital wristband Naima forgot to take off. Back then, she didn't think much of it, but now, it felt like a clue. She began visiting places, asking careful questions, pretending to be helping someone else. She knew better than to say Naima's name directly. Small towns carry big mouths, but slowly, quietly, she gathered pieces. She found an old nurse who remembered a young girl checking in alone, scared and silent. Around the same time, the baby was left behind. The nurse didn't know her name, but she described Naima exactly, down to the earrings she wore and the way she cried when the baby was taken away. Then Zanira searched through records, not digital ones, the dusty kind, handwritten logs and forms in old filing room. There, buried in a box, she found a hospital visit slip under a false name. But the handwriting, it was Naima's. She'd seen it all her life. And then, the final piece, the one that took her breath away. A staff member at the maternity ward, now retired, had an old phone filled with memories. She allowed Zanira to go through some photos from that year, and in one of them, standing just outside the hospital doors, was Naima. Her face was red, her eyes full of tears. She was wearing the exact dress Zanira had given her for her friend's party 5 years ago. Zanira stared at that photo for a long time, not because it surprised her. Deep down she had already known, but because it confirmed everything. All this time, she had carried the weight of a rumor that wasn't even hers to carry. But now she had proof, quiet, powerful proof, not to destroy Naima, but to finally free herself, because the truth was no longer hidden. It was right there, in her hands. And soon, the people who judged her would see what really happened. The knock on Zanira's door wasn't gentle. It was loud, rushed, and angry. Before she could even open it fully, Naima pushed her way inside. Her face was red, her eyes wild. She didn't even stop to look around. She went straight to the living room and froze. There, sitting calmly on the couch, was Zanira, and in her arms was a little girl. The child looked up, innocent and curious, holding a crayon in one hand and resting her head on Zanira's shoulder. She looked safe, comfortable, like she belonged there. Naima's voice broke the silence. "You think you can steal my life?" she shouted. "You think you can take everything from me, even her?" Zanira didn't flinch. She didn't yell back. She just looked at Naima with calm eyes, gently brushing the girl's hair away from her face. "No, Naima," she said softly. "I'm not trying to steal anything. I'm just making sure she knows the truth before someone lies to her again." Naima's mouth opened, then closed. She looked like she wanted to scream more, but something in Zanira's voice stopped her. It wasn't anger. It wasn't revenge. It was something else, something heavier, a quiet strength. Zanira stood up slowly, the girl still in her arms. She walked closer to her sister, close enough for Naima to see that the child had her same eyes, her same cheeks, her same little smile. "She deserves answers," Zanira continued. "She deserves to know where she came from, who she came from, and most of all, she deserves love, not shame, not secrets." Naima turned her face away. Her hands were shaking. All her lies, all her efforts to bury the truth, had finally brought her to this moment. "She's not supposed to be here," Naima whispered. "She is," Zanira replied. "She's here because she's strong, like you, like Mama, and she didn't ask for any of this. So don't punish her by pretending she doesn't exist." For a moment, there was silence. The little girl looked at both of them, sensing the tension, but still holding tightly to Zanira. Naima wiped her face. Her pride was breaking, but so was the wall she had built for years. And though she didn't say it out loud, in her eyes, there was guilt and fear and maybe, just maybe, a little relief. Zanira didn't press her. She didn't say, "I told you so." She just held the child close and let the silence speak. Because sometimes truth doesn't come with noise. It comes with a child's quiet trust and a sister's choice to finally stop hiding. Zanira didn't speak much the entire day. She just cleaned her small apartment, made tea, and waited. Her heart wasn't racing. It was calm now, like the air before a heavy rain. Everything had led to this moment. She had sent Jaburo a short message the day before. "Can you come by tomorrow? I have something to give you." No begging, no drama, just an invitation. He agreed. When he knocked, She opened the door and let him in without a word. He looked around awkwardly, as if unsure what to expect. He still had that stiff look on his face, the one people wear when they think they're about to hear an apology. But Zanira didn't apologize. She simply handed him a folder. Jaburo took it, confused. He opened the first page. His eyebrows pulled together as he flipped through papers, one after another. Hospital records, old witness statements, dates, times, and finally, a DNA test. He looked up at her, pale. Where did you get all this? He asked. Still, Zanira said nothing. She just looked at him, her expression soft but unreadable. She didn't need to speak. The truth was in his hands now, real, cold, and impossible to ignore. As he continued reading, the door opened again. Naima walked in, holding a gift bag, smiling like she was walking into a celebration. Her eyes went straight to Jaburo, and she started to speak, but then she saw the folder in his hands, and his face. The smile froze on her lips. What's going on? She asked, her voice shaking just a little. Jaburo slowly turned toward her. You told me she was lying, he said. You told me she was hiding a baby that wasn't mine, but you never told me you were the one hiding her. Nima's mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked at Zanira as if hoping she'd stop this, hoping she'd cover for her like before, but Zanira didn't move. Everything was out now, every hidden page, every truth Nima thought would stay buried, laid bare in a folder, and in front of the very man she had tried to steal. Nima tried to speak again, but her voice cracked. You weren't supposed to. Jaburo interrupted her. You used me. You lied to me. You broke her heart and let me think she was the one who betrayed me. The room went silent. Zanira still hadn't said a single word, but she didn't have to, because sometimes silence is louder than shouting. And this silence, it spoke of truth, of pain, and of a love that was never protected. Until now, Nima couldn't keep it together anymore. The moment Jaburo's voice turned cold and the folder slipped from his hands onto the table, it all cracked. The lies, the secrets, the fake smiles, it all crumbled. She screamed. Loud, painful, messy, not to defend herself, but out of pure frustration. You always had everything, she shouted, pointing at Zanira like she was the enemy. Everyone loved you. Mama trusted you. The neighbors praised you. Even Jaburo, even he chose you. Zanira didn't move. Her face didn't change. She just stood there, quiet, steady. Naima continued, tears pouring down her cheeks now. I had one mistake, one, and instead of helping me, you locked me in a corner with it. You let me drown in it, while you stood above me like some saint. Zanira finally spoke, but her voice was soft, not angry, not sharp, just tired. I didn't hold it over you, she said quietly. I held it for you, when you couldn't. Naima froze, her breath caught in her throat. Zanira's eyes began to water, but she didn't wipe the tears away. You think I enjoyed watching you fall apart? You think it was easy carrying your secret all these years, hearing people say I was the one who abandoned that baby? Naima looked away. She had no answer. I never judged you, Zanira continued. Not once. I saw how scared you were. I saw how you couldn't even look at her when she was born. And instead of telling the world, I kept quiet. For you. Because I loved you. Naima's shoulders dropped. Her anger melted into shame. And even after you ruined my engagement, lied to Jaburo, and watched me get blamed for something I didn't do, Zanira said softly, I still didn't hate you. I just wanted you to be honest. With yourself, with her, with me. The room went still. The weight of truth was too heavy for words now. Jaburo looked between the sisters, stunned by everything he was hearing. Naima slowly sat down on the edge of the couch, burying her face in her hands. The proud, sharp version of her was gone. All that was left was a girl who had carried guilt for too long and jealousy even longer. And Zanira, she wasn't smiling. She wasn't smug. She was simply done. Not with love, not with life. Just done being the one who always had to carry everything alone. Because now, finally, the truth was out, and the healing, whatever it would look like, could begin. A few days passed after everything came out. The lies, the baby, the truth that shook the room. Things became quiet. Not peaceful, but quiet. And then, one afternoon, Jaburo came back. He stood at Zanira's door, not proud or angry like before, but humble. His shoulders were low, his voice gentle. He asked if she had time to talk. She nodded and let him in, but her face stayed calm, not cold, just careful. They sat across from each other, the space between them now filled with things words couldn't fix. "I was wrong," Jaburo said. "I was foolish. I let someone else's lie blind me to the woman I loved." Zanira didn't say a word. "I should have trusted you," he continued. "I should have at least asked you. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I see now I hurt you more than anyone else ever could." She looked at him, listening. Not with hate, not with hope, just listening. "I miss you," he said, "every single day. I miss your smile, your strength, your peace. I don't want Neema. I never did. I want you. I want us back." From the corner of the room, the little girl sat on the floor with her crayons, quietly drawing flowers on a white sheet. She didn't understand everything, but she felt the tension, the silence, the weight. Zanira turned her head and looked at the child for a long moment. That small, gentle girl, so full of innocence, yet born from pain. Then she turned back to Jaburo. "You didn't believe in me when it mattered," she said softly. "When the world started whispering, you listened to them. When I needed you to stand beside me, you stepped away." He tried to speak, but she raised her hand gently, not to silence him with anger, just with truth. "I don't hate you," she continued. "I don't even blame you anymore, but I learned something important. I can't marry someone who doubts me the moment things get hard. I can only build a life with someone who protects me, who stands for me, especially when others try to tear me down." Jaburo's eyes filled with regret. He knew she meant every word. She smiled gently, not out of joy but out of release. "Some things don't come twice, Jaburo. Love is one of them." The little girl looked up and smiled too, not because she understood the conversation, but because she saw peace in her aunt's eyes. Jaburo nodded slowly, stood up, and walked away. And Zanira, she sat with the little girl, picked up a crayon and started coloring too, because life moves on, not with bitterness, but with truth and quiet strength. Time passed, not quickly, not all at once, but gently, like the way dawn replaces night without asking for permission. Zanira now lives a quieter life, not silent, but calm, peaceful in a way that only comes after pain has passed and truth has spoken. She wakes up every morning to the sound of tiny footsteps and laughter. Her niece, the little girl once surrounded by secrets, now fills the house with joy. Not because everything is perfect, but because love lives there now. Real love, the kind that doesn't ask for anything in return. Zanira doesn't raise her niece out of guilt or pity. She raises her out of deep, steady love. The kind that says, "You are safe now." She helps her with homework, listens to her stories, holds her when nightmares come, and celebrates every tiny win with the kind of pride only a true guardian can give. Neema, the sister who once lied and almost broke everything, is not the same either. She's in therapy, slowly unpacking the shame, the jealousy, the years of pretending to be okay when she wasn't. She is not healed yet, but she is trying. And sometimes, that's the bravest thing a person can do. Zanira doesn't gloat. She doesn't say, "I told you so." She just gives space, because real healing doesn't happen in noise. It happens in silence, in time, in grace. And then there's Jaburo. He watches from a distance. He doesn't call anymore. He doesn't try to explain. He just watches from across the street, from a passing car, from the edge of a crowd during a school event. And every time he sees the little girl laugh, especially when she tilts her head and smiles like Zanira, his heart sinks. Because in that small smile, he sees what he could have had, what he let slip, what he didn't fight for. And sometimes, he asks himself the question that now has no answer. What if I had trusted her? But Zanira doesn't ask that question anymore. She doesn't look back, not because she forgot, but because she forgave. Not because she didn't care, but because she chose peace over punishment. Because the truth didn't just protect her, it freed her. It freed them all. And the little girl, now happy, growing, loved, is living proof that even when someone lies to destroy you, telling the truth, standing tall and waiting for the light to shine is always worth it. Because truth doesn't need revenge, it just needs time. And time always tells the whole story.